Whether you realize it or not, there is an ideology that is sweeping through the country that is trying to infect private business, schools K through 12, college and university. So think about the littlest among us to the most educated among us, and also church. This ideology is critical race theory. Now, I want to use this video, guys, to show you what critical race theory is, as far as the basic tenet of it, and a couple different stories on how to beat it, because it needs to be resisted. Critical race theory needs to be resisted, or you're just going to be stuck in a woke matrix where everybody who's white is bad and everybody who's black and brown is some sort of virtuous. Because at the end of the day, guys, critical race theory is a self-defeating ideology because it uses racism to combat racism. They want to dismantle racism, but at the same time they discriminate against white people, and we are going to talk about that, guys. So before we get any further, make sure you guys join the journey to 5,000 subs. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. And let's dive into this. So I was reading through this article from the American Mind. You could hold your ground against critical theory. And it's a story of a couple who went into the healthcare sector, and they're trying to alleviate some of the disparities that they see. We're going to jump into this article. And what they notice is, as time goes on, some of their employees, some of the people that they are working with start saying stuff like the systems are non-normative. The white executive doesn't know how to relate to the ones who are oppressed, things like that. And the woman who is telling the story is saying, I didn't know what they were talking about for a long time, but then I did a deep dive into critical theory and realized they are just indoctrinated with this woke ideology, and now they're bringing it to the workplace. So without further ado, guys, I want to share this story with you because it is representative of the times we're in. And Grace Daniel gives a great she gives a great action at the end of, this is how you hold your ground against critical race theory. So just so we have the story in place. All right, I want to go through this article. This video is going to be a little bit longer because, I want the story side of this to be captured. And I think that the article does the best job of it. So it starts off, wherever, however, don't back down. Most of cancel culture stories are brutal and alarming. It seems no one is safe from the threat of the mob intent on taking a person down. Not acclaimed editors, not professors, not poets, nor promising politicians, nor regular college kid. It is my hope this story will provide encouragement that it's possible to withstand the mob, but you might have to learn how to fight fire with fire. And I love that right there. My husband and I co-founded a nonprofit organization in 2010. At the time, we knew nothing about the woke ideology called critical theory, or sometimes critical social justice. Our motivation was to address disparities in mental health care. We had learned that lay people without clinical training made up the majority of trauma care providers working with vulnerable populations such as refugees and human trafficking survivors around the world. We wanted to help equip those lay care providers with good resources for increasing mental and emotional resilience in their communities. We hired clinically trained mental health professionals to develop our curriculum, oversee monitoring, evaluation, and learning, and run the international training program. The organization saw great success in our first 7 years. We received accolades from all the right people in academia and the nonprofit world. And we partnered with the international and grassroots organization working with survivors of trauma in more than 50 countries. Then, a few years ago, we became aware of a gradual but marked shift in the tone among our program team. My husband, who serves as executive director, felt that he was always on trial with his own staff. These were people we respected and admired who had done great work with the organization for years. My husband had once related to these people with familiarity and ease. Now he couldn't fathom team members' hypercritical posture towards norms or understand their impenetrable rhetoric. As a volunteer for the organization, I was often around the staff and became accustomed to their phraseology. It included frequent use of terms like systems of power and oppression, hegemony, marginalized identity, intersections, centering, deconstruct, knowledges, and normativity. I didn't understand the ideology behind it, so I started what turned into a deep dive research project. So I want to pause right here because I personally went through the same thing with a local church, and I started catching all of these buzzwords like systems of power and oppression, identity, marginalization, intersections, deconstructing. And at first I didn't understand. So there was this there was this idea at this church that we have to deconstruct whiteness. We need to deconstruct whiteness in the society. And I was completely blown away by, well, what do you mean? How do you deconstruct whiteness? What is whiteness? What are you guys talking about? And as I did my research, I found out, okay, they are coming at this from a critical race theory perspective because what they see is a society that was built by white men for white men at the expense and detriment of black and brown people. That is the perspective that they're coming from. Therefore, what they're saying is we need to deconstruct the society that offers virtue and value to white people and hinders the progress of black and brown. So we need to deconstruct this idea that mainstream society has, long story short, that white is good, black and brown is less desirable. That is what they were talking about, deconstructing in a very plain way. So as I was reading through this article, I saw a lot of parallels. I went through the same thing, but instead of being in the healthcare uh, field, I saw it for close hand, front row seat in the church. Continuing with the article, meanwhile, the open letters began. The letters were always directed to everyone in the organization, from graphic designers to governing board, always asserted vaguely that the organization was causing harm and always ended with demands. We were alarmed and confused. We initiated all organization sessions, sometimes moderated by our board chair, sometimes with a third-party professional mediator, trying to discern what was happening and what was needed. I later came to understand that these meetings were essentially struggle sessions, as in the Maoist, I don't know how to say that, Maoist, there you go, Maoist tradition. But even at the time, it soon became apparent there were no specific actions or indications that could be deemed harmful. The accusations remained vague and abstract, demanding as means of atonement that the organization examine systems in order to protect vulnerable identity. And that is how leftists and this whole ideology works. They do vague and abstract demands. All right. They make vague and abstract claims. Oh, your company is racist. Well, who in my company is racist? Nobody. Okay. So what critical race theory accomplishes is it can have a whole organization with no racist people inside of it, yet the organization be racist. So you're left with this situation where there's racism with no racist. Imagine that. Still attempting to uncover any real abuses that could be occurring, my husband met individually with team members to assess whether anyone had experienced mistreatment. No member could identify any incident that would require further inquiry. What also became apparent was the accusers didn't want to resolve any real or imagined harm. They wanted control of the organization. Not understanding board governance, they demanded that the head of the program staff replace executive director as a voting member of the board. They reasoned that because the executive director was a straight, white, male Christian, he was unqualified to lead an organization addressing trauma. That's when I learned to fight. Guys, this part you have to we have to sit with this because I'm going to show you. I experienced this in the church. What they're saying, what these woke people are saying is because you're white, male, Christian, you're unqualified to address trauma. All right, I recently came across this at the former church I was at, and I want to share with you just the ideology that critical race theory pushes and how it manifests itself inside the church, because it's very obvious to see it when you're actually paying attention. Now, this screenshot right here was a Bible study I was a part of. Where do we go from here? Race and culture. All right. So these are action steps. So it's a flow chart. And what the pastor was teaching was that if you're white, so this side right here, let me get my marker back over here. This side right here, white brothers and sisters, and then black and brown brothers and sisters are on this side. So if you're white, if you're a white brother or sister in this church, or as a Christian, because he believes this is the way that the Christian faith should go, you need to recognize your racism or complicity in racism. You need to repent of your complicity in racism or your overt racism. You need to repair the damage that you've done to black and brown people. And then we're all going to be reconciled because you, white person, have finally noticed and recognized that you're a racist, vicious racist. And then if you're black and brown, you need to educate your white brother and sister that they're racist. Then you need to equip them on how to not be a racist, or equip them on how to recognize systems of oppression. And then you need to empower them or us. I don't know who we're empowering. I guess we empower white people to speak out against these systems, and then we endure because we are subjects of being systemically oppressed. All right. So this is within the church, and this is the same structure as what that woman and her husband were going after. And if you remember what they said, that the people that were bringing up the grievance against her and her husband was that her husband is the executive director and he is unqualified because he's white, male, Christian. All right. This same church wanted to run the same church wanted to do is doing an outreach program in St. Petersburg, Florida, trying to address fatherlessness and the generational curse of fathers being absent in the home. So these kids, there are kids that they want to service that are victims of fatherlessness. They have been wards of the state. All right. They are coming from a broken background. All right. So all of that sounds good. Helping these type of kids are good. But this is where critical race theory gets interjected and the mission gets perverted. What this church is saying is that, similar to the claim of the healthcare worker that because he's white male, he can't be an executive director, this church said, if you're white, we don't want you to come help these black and brown kids in St. Petersburg, Florida, because you won't be able to understand the trauma that they're going through. That is literally their stance on selecting grown men who are Christians who want to help. That is their stance. That is their criteria. If you want to be part of this ministry of God, you can't be white. And that is the perverseness that you see in the church and in this current story. So I really, if I wasn't paying attention, I wouldn't understand what the heck is going on, because when you go to church, you shouldn't see white people getting treated one way and black and brown people getting treated another way. That just shouldn't happen. Like, we should all be having the same steps as far as the church moving forward, because it's not like all white people are guilty of racism. All white people are not complicit in racism. No, that ideology comes from critical race theory. All right. So that's just a personal story to share with you guys, that I have experienced the exact same thing that this story is talking about, except in the church. All right, so counter-revolution. So that's when I learned to fight. At this point, I had been doing my homework for a while and understood that these assaults to be the fruit of social justice ideology derived from critical theory. I had discovered Neil Shenvi's blog with thorough reviews of theory's original source documents. I also found James Lindsay and Helen Pluckrose's cynical theories and Lindsay's blog New Discourses, full of resources for understanding theory and tactics for exposing its inconsistencies. I knew what we were facing was an attempted subversion of the organization through threatening ultimatums, character smearing, and forced transfer of power. We were committed on principle to seeing the conflict to its end. So rather than fire the subversive lot, we aimed to expose their holy texts as deficient. We hoped they would recognize that adhering to theory is indistinguishable from cultish zeal. I wrote position papers on how critical theory compromised our mission by conflicting with a number of our organizational commitments, including being evidence-based, valuing the individual, practicing cultural humility, and allowing for true diversity. Now, this is how you fight against critical race theory. You tell people who push this that no, we are talking about evidence-based things, because the assumption that critical race theory interjects into the conversation is that America is deeply and systemically, irredeemably, irrevocably racist, and that all white people are either outright racist or they're complicit. And to that, we say, no, you can't make big claims like that without evidence. You can't make big claims like that, because you are devaluing some of the individuals that are not like that. And you're clumping them up with everyone else that you say is racist, but actually it's you who are the racist, because you are practicing prejudice against all white people. Practicing cultural humility. There's this idea that black culture or Hispanic culture or other or minority culture is superior to all other superior to white culture. But the bottom line is this: everybody's culture has virtues, everybody's culture has hindrances. So we should have humility through that, and allowing for true diversity of thought, true diversity of skin color, true diversity on experiences. All right, not this racist ideology that inclusion includes just disbanding white people. I also learned to fight with fire. I also learned to fight fire with fire by using their woke moral code against them. When a staff member said I couldn't speak to a topic because I'm straight, I told her it was wrong to assume about my sexuality just because I'm married to a man. She immediately groveled. That's a good move right there. Incredibly, when staff members were forced to concede some of their demands, demands were contrary. Incredibly, when staff members were forced to concede some of their demands were contrary to the best mental health research, they persisted, claiming deep personal conviction as their justification. They were professionals with clinical training and advanced degrees from respected institutions. It was disheartening. At this point, it was evident that there was no good faith dialogue to be had. We were dealing with ideological devotion rather than a commitment to seeking truth. And that is what the woke ideology produces: a bunch of black and brown people using anecdotal evidence. Oh, John Smith was racist to me when I was 11, therefore America is fully racist. A cop pulled me over one time and gave me a ticket, so therefore the whole police system is racist. I had one bad incident, I had two bad incidents, I had three bad incidences, and that speaks for America in totality. And it's not individual incidences. It's actually, these individual incidences are evidence that the entire system is irrevocably racist. Okay, that is what these people are. That's what they're doing. They are devoted to an ideology. It's called the tribalism of race. After some months, it was clear to them we wouldn't budge. The ones making demands left on moral grounds, with parting emails accusing us of multiple phobias and labeling the organization white supremacist. Never mind that we've always partnered with people of every ethnicity, creed, and identity. In refusing their terms, we had forfeited our right to be regarded as decent human beings. In truth, it was the most dehumanizing experience of my life. I already stood accused due to my immutable traits: white, straight, cisgendered, Christian. And for those who don't know the word cisgender, that just means you're biologically born. Like, for example, me, I'm cisgendered. I was born biologically with male genitalia, and I'm a man now who identifies as being a man, cisgendered. Confused? Yeah, I know. By not acquiescing to their moral code and demands, I was anathema. No pain, no gain. Having survived an attempted power grab and character assassination by a woke mob, I'll attest it's painful. It especially hurts if the mob includes people you once trusted. But if you care more about maintaining your integrity than what people think about you or say about you, you'll emerge with your dignity intact. Now, this is also part of the fight. If you care more about maintaining your integrity than what people say about you, you will be fine. You just keep on pushing. Don't apologize or defend yourself against vague accusations of harm. An apology when you've done nothing wrong is a lie. It will only further convince your accusers their delusion are reality. They don't want dialogue, they want compliance, nor will you defeat them in a logical debate. Theory rejects objective truth. All right. And that's what they believe. Instead, attempt to show the inconsistencies between their demands and what they claim to care about. Example, the poor or black people. A critical race theory does not care about black people because they want to pull cops out of black neighborhoods. Okay, defund the cops, but then you're going to pull the cops out of the neighborhoods that need them the most? Cool. It will require some research on your part to prove you really do understand theory and you repudiate it as insufficient to work of bettering the world. You'll acquire a thick skin, as you will be called nasty names like a racist, blah blah blah. You've internalized. I've been told that I've traded on my Hispanic friends or some of my black friends, or I internalize white supremacy. Okay, none of that matters to me. If you don't fight this nonsense now, wherever it's showing up in your community, soon there will be nothing good, true, or beautiful to defend. We will be ruled by lies and power, by being told we're progressing towards truth and injustice. We're in an open war. Ideologically speaking, there is no safe anymore. There is no safe anymore for people of good conscience. Choose which kind of unsafe you can abide. Fighting lies is always preferable to being ruled by them. I believe the truth will prevail. So there you have it, guys. I thought that article was worth reading every single word because it gives us a story. And I'm going to link that article in the description below. So if you guys want to check that out. And guys, if if you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit that like button, guys. Make sure you hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed by now, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join the journey to 5,000 subs. But the last thing I want to share with you, all right, is one last way on how we need to combat critical race theory in our schools. So I experienced critical race theory in the church. I went to the pastors, I went to the people in charge, and I was like, this is crooked. I talked to them for months. Ultimately, they were not budging. And I took my family from that church and removed myself because I don't want myself to be subjected to lies. Okay. So with that said, you can either move and reorient yourself so that you're away from the lies, or you could stay within the organization, like the story, the story that we just read. The only difference there was they were the heads, they were the ones who were in charge. When I was at the church, there was already a leadership established and I was outside of that. So I really saw myself not gaining any ground after months of discussion, because like we said, they were part of a devotion to an ideology, and it was not Christianity. So with that said, in terms of the church, I think it's best to just cut your losses and move on to a church that's not devoted to critical race theory. You know, fight it, call it out, say, hey, we see what you're doing. We don't agree with this. This is not biblical. But at the end of the day, if the leadership is not going to budge and they're continuing to talk about white privilege and then tell white people they can't serve in the ministry because they're white and they don't understand black orphans' pains, okay, you know what? We're moving on. But this one right here, because remember, I started this video by stating that critical race theory is coming after K through 12 college universities, churches, and private sector business. All right, here's the last thing I want to share with you, because this is how we need to combat critical race theory entering the schools.
In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Now I have a dream that we will implement love, not hate, or supporting another Jim Crow's agenda. CRT is not an honest dialogue. It is a tactic that was used by Hitler and the Ku Klux Klan on slavery very many years ago to dumb down my ancestors so we could not think for ourselves. CRT is racist. It is abusive. It discriminates against one's color. Let me educate you. An honest dialogue does not oppress. An honest dialogue does not implement hatred or injustice. It's to communicate without deceiving people. Today, we don't need your agreement. We want action and a backbone for what we asked for today, to ban CRT. We don't want your political advertisement to divide our children or belittle them. Think twice before you indoctrinate such racist theories. You cannot tell me what is or is not racist. Look at me. I had to come down here today to tell you to your face that we are coming together and we are strong. This will not be the last. Greet and meet respectfully.
Yeah. And there you have it, guys. There you have it. That is how what you saw right there, is true backbone. What you saw right there is how you fight critical race theory. You tell them straight up, we don't want your devotion to an ideology that's devoted to race. We don't want to discriminate against white people. We don't want to be part of your self-defeating ideology. You claim you want to end racism and fight racism, yet you're using racist tactics and deceptive tactics to belittle and smear white people's names. All right. So with all that said, guys, I think I'm gonna leave that right there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. There will definitely be more content to come surrounding critical race theory, because this fight is not going anywhere, but there are more of us who are standing up and pushing back and saying, no, we don't want your secular, divisive, deceptive, racist, lying ideology among us. And if you want to practice in this cultish ideology, then you need to go do it in the fringes of society, because it will not be accepted in the mainstream marketplace or in the society at large. So guys, thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a great Sunday. God bless you. Peace.